podcast. I know that this video and this material is coming a couple of days late, or about a day or so late for this week, but I did just want to take a moment and really talk through the lesson material for this week because with this particular writing assignment, there can be some confusion, right? As you're looking at the material, you might find that this is a lot different from everything that we learned as related to a narrative. And that's okay, right? The goal is to learn different styles of writing so that we can be effective in all types of writing. So, of course, last week your goal was to choose a print advertisement. And one of the primary assignments was to present your pitch, basically what it is that you want to write about and why. And then also, I gave you another advertisement for you to practice a little bit on. Now, today or this week, what I really want to talk about is understanding the rhetorical appeals and rhetorical analysis. Because ultimately, what you are doing is writing an analysis essay. And in writing that analysis essay, it does require you to go a little bit more deeply than you might be realizing. So I want to just talk through this material, if I can click. Okay, so first of all, we are familiar with the word analyze. It's a word that you've probably heard quite a bit over the course of your education, to look more deeply into a thing. So when we talk about rhetorical analysis, the goal is to look deeply into a thing in order to examine it and derive meaning. It does elevate our thinking to a level of critical thinking so that we can try to understand and explain why things function a certain way. Why does this work? Why is it in our case, why is it that this advertisement really does prompt people to go out and buy this product, support this organization, or to believe whatever claim? So ultimately, our goal is to analyze the rhetoric of something, an examination of how or why something is or is not effective and or persuasive, okay? Because when we think about rhetoric as a word, the art of speaking and writing, and really focusing on the fact that most of what we speak and write, even if it is not overtly persuasive, much of what we write does have some persuasive elements. Much of what we say does have persuasive elements. So when we talk about rhetorical analysis, it's important to know what are the rhetorical techniques. And you might have heard these words before, maybe in a psychology class, maybe in a sociology class, but words like ethos, logos, and pathos. I might also say ethos, logos, and pathos, but it's all the same. But these three words relate to Aristotle's rhetorical appeals. Now, we won't go into a digression about who Aristotle was as a ancient philosopher, but really someone who was monumental in developing styles of argumentation and communication in order to make things more effective when we speak to each other. So, when we talk about those rhetorical techniques, it's what is it that we are using to deliberately intentionally create an effect. I know that we're not thinking about this when we're watching TV and we see a commercial, or we're driving down the road and we see a billboard, or flipping through a magazine or scrolling the internet and we see a picture that is designed to be an advertisement. You're probably not thinking about why that ad works. But on the back end, the advertisers, the marketing executives, all of those people, they have thought about why it works. They have done the research. They have studied these rhetorical appeals and techniques to ensure that when I create what seems to be a random, funny Skittles commercial, it's actually very strategically done so that I can pinpoint a target audience and create an effective mood within that audience so that a particular group of people are more likely than not likely to purchase Skittles candy if they are interested in purchasing candy. So I'm going to look at this slide. Now, some of these words might be cut off just because of the nature of the screen, but I am also going to link the PowerPoint below. But when we think about Aristotle's rhetorical appeals, much of that, let's see, can I make this larger? No, but much of that is similar to the rhetorical triangle that you may already be familiar with. I know early in the semester I talked about purpose, audience, and tone, but the rhetorical triangle is very similar in terms of purpose, author and the audience, right? When we think about these things, you can kind of see where the different rhetorical appeals do apply to each. For example, with the purpose, you have words like logos. That's related to logic. So you might be prompted with questions like what logical information is included to support the intended purpose. If your goal is to sell me a car, what logical information do you include in this car advertisement in order to convince me to purchase this vehicle? If, on the other hand, you don't include any logical information, why not? What is it that you are omitting and what is it that you are substituting and why? Does that work? And if it does work, how does it work? Oftentimes, when we have logic omitted, what is instead substituted is pathos, an opportunity to connect with the audience, really paying attention to who is the target audience and what strategies are effective for identifying with a specific target audience, right? Who is it? Am I targeting children? And if I'm targeting children, how can I connect? What emotion do I want to evoke within that child so that he or she will go to his or her parent and say, hey, I want this? And then at the same time, lots of advertisements are hinged very heavily on the idea of ethos, which is an appeal to ethics. Now, you might be wondering, well, that's kind of tricky, but this is probably what we see most often. It's when you have, for example, a Hanes underwear commercial that features Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is not an expert in underwear. Michael Jordan is not an expert in cotton or anything like that, or the production of clothing in general. However, Michael Jordan is a popular, famous person. So back in the day when he was the spokesperson for Hanes underwear, it wasn't because he was an expert, but it was because of who he was. And using a person such as Michael Jordan to represent a brand is a very effective tactic because people who idolize or look up to in any degree that person will be more likely to actually support the brand, even if they don't realize that they have been manipulated into doing so. And I realize that's a strong word, but ultimately it is a bit manipulative. Now, in talking through each of these, a little bit. When we think about ethos, things that I want you to keep in mind, this is an analysis of the author or creator or representative. What are what is these what ethics does this person have? What credibility does this person have? You want to consider what is known about either the company or the model or actor in the picture or the famous person. What educational background does that person have? What political affiliations? Is that person famous or popular? Is that person biased for any reason? Do they have personal interest that would prompt them to support a particular claim? For example, this often happens when you have celebrities who endorse products or services that they also have stake in the company, right? So if I have stake in the company or if I'm part owner in this company, to some degree, there's a financial gain outside of me just participating in a marketing campaign, then obviously I am going to be the face if I'm a celebrity, and people who are my fans as a celebrity might be more inclined to support or purchase or whatever the case may be. So that's something to consider. Also, you want to consider when we're thinking about these logical appeals, we have seen this all the time, right? Many of us have probably seen this advertisement for Nike featuring Colin Kaepernick that says, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. Well, that's a valid point. I agree with that statement. I might even be a Colin Kaepernick fan. However, one must ask the question, what does that have to do with Nike tennis shoes or clothing? Does Colin Kaepernick wear Nikes? Probably. What does this representation of Colin Kaepernick have to do with the Nike logo? Well, the slogan, just do it, we get it. But the whole idea of the company and the point of the advertisement. Not all ads are designed to sell a product. This advertisement is not designed to sell a product. Instead, it is designed to encourage brand loyalty, right? To encourage people to support the company so that when you do look for shoes, you will look for Nikes, even if you are not presently in the market for it. And all of that is hinged upon the presentation of a famous, popular, well known person who stood on his particular morals and principles. And if I'm also a person who is inclined to stand on my morals and principles, I would support Colin Kaepernick, I would support Nike. So we see how that works. Now, also, we have to consider logos. Logos is the fundamental of the foundation of many things. It's the logical appeal. What's the purpose? Are you trying to inform me, persuade me, entertain me? And how are you presenting logical information in order to do that? Now, sadly, most advertisements don't include a lot of logic, but we do have some, such as this. It says at the top, less guilty, more pleasure, and it's an advertisement for pop chips. And the reason why this is logic based is because it presents the nutritional information for fried chips, kettle style chips, and pop chips. And so if I am trying to make a choice based on the facts, the data, the statistics, or in this case, the nutritional facts, then this is the most informative, the most effective type of advertisement because you give me the information so that I can arrive at an informed conclusion. What we see most often, though, is advertisements that are designed simply based on pathos or pathos, which is an appeal to our emotions. Sometimes I think this is what's most manipulative. Now, that may or may not be the case, depending on how you deem that word, if you think it's a positive or a negative word. But it can be quite manipulative because the goal with pathos is to appeal to the audience's emotions by using sensory details, value laden words such as strength, integrity, faith, patriotism. Those words are value laden. We're using anecdotes or objects of emotion or objects that are appealing, such as vacation destinations that people might want to go to. With this, you have to consider the audience and the feelings that the audience may have. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how does all this connect to what we're talking about, to analyzing an advertisement? If we look at this Coca-Cola ad, open a Coke, open happiness, that doesn't make any sense, but it is appealing. On a pathos level, we have some bright, vivid imagery. It elicits feelings of happiness. We have a ladybug here. I think ladybugs are associated with good luck. And so we have all of this positive, pleasant imagery that is designed to make the viewer feel good. And in feeling good, feel inclined to, when given a choice, choose Coca-Cola. Now, how do you use all this? Using this information to analyze your ad, it is important that you use this to develop your thesis statement. Your goal is to focus on the effect and the technique in order to explain how a particular effect is developed. But you do want to avoid simply telling what we see. For example, in this ad that I've included here on this screen, let's just do it this way. What we see is the Volkswagen. This is a recent print ad, and it says precision parking, park assist by Volkswagen. You have a porcupine and some delicate goldfish in a bag. So my thesis statement might say, in recent advertisements, Volkswagen uses humorous, relatable imagery to show consumers the value of precision parking technology. Now, a less effective thesis statement would be the Volkswagen advertisement is humorous because the imagery shows the value of precision parking. Well, that's true, but it doesn't argue a point. So the point is that this is relatable. We are all familiar with porcupines and goldfish. We are all familiar with how delicate of a situation this may be. And so you can use this to create your thesis statement. And in creating your thesis statement, you can use it to organize your paper with this This might simply be a 5 paragraph essay where we break it down. Okay, I realize that I rushed through that quite quickly. Please do take the time to go through the PowerPoint on your own. There's an exercise this week that is allowing you to practice this skill. Please let me know if you have any questions.